News Hour is Steve Bannon, former chief strategist of President Donald Trump in his previous term. Thank you very much, Mr. Bannon, for joining me. You've been a man very close to President Donald Trump, and you've been involved in talks, even on the Prime Minister-President meeting that took place in the wee hours India time, and 14th of February, I think, United States time. I want to ask you, how would you categorize this meeting? Friendly? Was the chemistry good? Did the arithmetic work out fine?
Well, first off, we're the largest show out there, the largest podcast, number 2 podcast in the United States in politics, only in back of Obama's guys, Pod Save America, and we're by far the largest MAGA platform. And so we keep in very close contact with people at the White House and what they're working on. Particularly, obviously, we're very close to Dr. Peter Navarro, who really was a co-host for our show for years before going back in and being President Trump's senior trade representative on trade. Just so your audience understands, Prime Minister Modi is a beloved figure here in the United States of America, particularly among the MAGA base. Remember, we're a populist nationalist movement in back of President Trump that President Trump's helped create in our leader. And we really respect people around the world, leaders around the world that are populist nationalists that really put their countries first. And Modi is at the level, only Nigel Farage is anywhere near Modi's reputation here in this country among the MAGA base. So when Modi comes, we do wall-to-wall coverage. We covered every second of it yesterday. We picked it up live, unlike some of the channels, although it did get tremendous coverage here. But your audience should know that the MAGA base and the supporters of President Trump, of which there are many, many Indian Americans, Hindu Americans here, and we have a pretty big audience on War Room, and a lot of people I'm very close to are. But so Modi is a beloved figure, number one. He and President Trump have a great chemistry. I mean, among other world leaders, I don't think there's anyone. The only two that have ever had the type of chemistry was Abe and Modi. They just have, President Trump has tremendous respect. He really respects a hard negotiator and somebody puts his country first. And as everyone here knows, Prime Minister Modi is a very hard negotiator and always puts India's interests first. So he has tremendous respect and quite frankly, is a beloved figure, as you can see from the Howdy Modi, event we had years ago and President Trump coming to India. So I think the two countries and the two leaders couldn't be in a better position.
Let me ask you, President Trump, of course, thinks very highly of you because just a few weeks ago, he said, nice to see that one of my best pupils is still a giant Trump fan. Steve joined me after I won the primaries, but I loved working with him. How does it work? Does he take your advice on several issues, even in this term? How's the relationship going between you two?
In this second term, you have a staff that's really terrific and very professional. I think doing a great job of keeping the trains running on time. Almost all of us from the first administration are outside, and one of the reasons that we learned the lessons in the first term, you need outside groups, you need outside, particularly media platforms. You need to be able to drive President Trump's message. Just for your audience, from President Trump, when the 2020 election was stolen and President Trump went back to Mar-a-Lago, really War Room, we were the #1 platform to support him and to do it two ways. Number one, make sure that we reinvigorated his grassroots movement so we would get political wins and he would be insurmountable in the primary and then the presidency, which is what happened. And number two was to start to get public intellectuals, people that have been in the first administration, help them set up think tanks or support their work. And this is what you're seeing today. When you cut the TV on every day and you see President Trump signing 5 executive orders and taking 10 executive actions, and we call it flood the zone, just hit the apparatus here, the entrenched bureaucracy in the media every day with more and more action so they can't really regroup as we try to take down the administrative state and really go on a full-on assault on the deep state. This has been worked on for years and years and years by these different think tanks and groups. One of the groups is Project 2025, which has been a little controversial. So, and the people that support President Trump or the closest to him have been working on both the political aspects of this and the public policy aspects. And President Trump, as you know, is an entrepreneur, and he has very non-traditional ways of doing things. So he has tremendous, feedback from friends he knows, business associates, people like myself, many others. I'm one of many. I don't hold myself out that, they have President Trump's ear, and that's not really necessary. What he does is he weighs and measures a lot of information, and then he selects people that can work on projects. To be specific, a guy named Steve Witkoff, who's a real estate entrepreneur but a very tough negotiator, really did a great job in the situation in Gaza. And now Witkoff just went the other day to Moscow to see Putin, and you can see that President Trump is relying very much on him, I think, to put this deal together about Ukraine with Putin. So that's how President Trump operates, very entrepreneurial, and really not very focused on either process or structure.
Let me ask you, President Trump reiterated his position on tariffs, reciprocal tariffs. India would be a little circumspect on that score, given the fact that, India has missed a bus or two, in getting to a high economic growth rate and getting to a strong economic position. And at this time, something like that could hit Indian businesses hard. Do you think the fact that, 6 months, there's going to be a committee that would work on things, and at least it seems like India has bought 6 months, but do you read too much there? Is it a bit of a softening of stand, or do you think it's inevitable that reciprocal tariffs will come because President Trump is committed to that?
If one thing I can tell your audience and the people of India, don't narrow this down to something that's just so technical. There's a very special relationship, I think, between the United States and India right now, and I think it's only going to get better with President Trump and kind of the populist nationalist movement here. As you know, India is actually, and I keep saying, the key that picks the lock in this geostrategic realignment, particularly against the threat of the Chinese Communist Party. And what the Chinese Communist Party is trying to do, not just in the Eurasian landmass and just not around India, but also throughout the entire region, and also what they're doing in Latin America and other places. Peter Navarro, I think, said it best. What President Trump's doing, we're trying to do a restructuring of kind of global trade, and to look at, so just don't look at it as tariffs or non-tariff barriers, but President Trump looks at the United States market as kind of premier market, a premium market. To get through the golden door, somehow you're going to have to pay some sort of premium price. Now, there will be strategic deals done with partners, and I think this is where you got to put it in the perspective. President Trump committed yesterday to double trade with India in 5 years. And President Trump doesn't make these things and just throw them out there. This was very well thought through with Peter Navarro, the rest of the economic team, Secretary of Treasury Bessent, other people in the White House. So to say double, I think our trade's about $190 billion today, $200 billion. You're talking about more than double. I think he wants to go to $500 billion in 5 years. That's a tall task. In doing that, the countries have to work together. Now, on the reciprocity and what was signed earlier in the day, India does have, relatively high tariffs in certain areas that I think has got to be negotiated, and has to be an open dialogue between Peter Navarro and the trade representatives in India. But I would not put too much stock in the fact that, the reciprocity was traded, and so we got to think. I would take a bigger picture. India and the United States, I think, have a very the same outlook on the world, and particularly the same outlook on national security and prosperity. And you have two leaders who are the two leading nationalists in the world, who are looking out for their people, but have strong chemistry, strong bond. The two countries have a strong bond, and I think it's a great starting point. I think they're great years ahead. If we work together as partners, I know we will. That Modi's a tough negotiator. President Trump respects that. I don't think that'll come between friends and between allies. And so, we talked about the military transfers yesterday. There's been some hangups in the past. But what I would tell your audience, I think this is a great starting point to have a working meeting, to have Modi come over so soon, and with all the other things going on in the world, Ukraine and the Middle East, to really make time. And I can tell you, this was a very special day for President Trump. He wanted to take time out of the schedule. He wanted to get Prime Minister Modi over there. And I think Modi showed respect and appreciation. He actually took questions. As you know, Prime Minister Modi doesn't often take questions, but he took questions yesterday. The press conference was terrific. It was carried live on all the major networks. And so for folks in India, it was a big day. And it was even better than Howdy Modi, which I thought was a pretty great day for us in our relationship with India.
Well, fantastic to hear that from you. But let me also ask you another issue that's making headlines back home in India is the issue of President Trump shutting down USAID. And with all the content on that worrying around that how USAID was actually funding organizations of George Soros and using that money to somehow influence elections in India, playing a role on social media. How is this entire issue back home? And do you really think the investigation and disclosures will bring out, frankly, the villains of the piece disturbing democracy?
Look, USAID has been something we've been very focused on for years. It took Elon Musk and the Doge team to really highlight it and be that kind of armor-piercing shell that brought it up. But you should know Trump's base, and particularly the leadership of this base, we've had USAID in the gun sights for a long time, over a decade. It is totally and completely corrupt. It's done two things. It's funded many NGOs, source-backed NGOs, religious-based NGOs that have really exacerbated or organized the invasion of our southern border. To get 10 to 12 million illegal aliens in our country through the southern border was a highly organized effort. Anything you've seen in the media that looks like chaos at the border, it was not. This was very well thought through by the most radical elements of the Biden regime, the open borders crowd, the NGOs with source money and others, and USAID. It turns out American taxpayer paid for it. Also, the suppression of voices inside our country. Turns out USAID was giving information to all these kind of nefarious groups, very, very kind of dark money groups that were there to suppress, like my show and other shows, right? The voices of President Trump. That's all going to be investigated. Also, it appears to us at first cut that the USAID was a cutout for the CIA. And that's something we don't want. We want to make sure we're very suspect of the Central Intelligence Agency. We're very suspect of the FBI. We are taking down the deep state in this country. The deep state in America turned into a Praetorian Guard where they felt they could choose who the leaders are going to be. That is going to end. And that's and Elon Musk and I disagree on a lot of things. One of the things we do agree on is that there's got to be a major effort to take down the deep state. And USAID, to just be blunt about it, looks like a slush fund for all types of nefarious activities. So what they did on the surface of helping certain food programs or water programs, either sub-Saharan Africa or South Asia, we believe was just kind of cosmetics put on the top to hide what they're going to do. There'll be a thorough investigation. I would be very surprised if USAID existed at all. I'm one of the strongest advocates to shut the whole thing down, and then we should rebuild where we're doing outreach to South Asia or sub-Saharan Africa. These are legitimate projects that are actually helping people, and the money's going to the people in the region to help them. I think people in the United States would be very much in favor of, but that's not what USAID is today. And
Let me also ask you, Steve Bannon. The last few days have been extremely tough for you. You have pled guilty to defrauding donors over the building of a wall along America's southern border. You've been indicted in 2022 over charges of money laundering, conspiracy, and fraud. Do you agree you committed to this, or do you still insist you've been at the receiving end of this malicious prosecution?
You see this all throughout. All of President Trump's leaders have been under total, complete lawfare. It's happening again today in New York City, and I've warned President Trump, I've warned people that New York City, Manhattan is a particularly dangerous area for us, because you have these radical source judges, you have these radical source DAs that can indict you. Just make sure, you should read my what I signed, and I stand by the signing because, I did it. I had to do it. I totally dispute the facts of it, but there was no punishment, no jail time, no compensation, no fine, no penalty, no community service. I think that's pretty unheralded in American jurisprudence. I believe that both ourselves and the DA there, they could never get a conviction. I could never get an acquittal because of the simple reason of the jury pool. It's the same jury pool that convicted President Trump in 3 hours of 32 felonies. So I was faced the same prosecutor, basically the same judge. The same judge kicked it to another judge at the last second, in the same jury pool. And the same same media. So, and I warned people in President Trump's sphere, and I particularly warned outside the courthouse, and I kind of called on Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. She should start an immediate investigation of the Attorney General of New York, Tish James, and the DA, Alvin Bragg. And to be honest, it started yesterday. She announced 24 hours afterwards that they're having an investigation of these two very people. Now it's on a different topic. It's on the topic of sanctuary cities, and those two and others in New York State and New York City actually blocking our ICE teams from deporting illegal alien criminals. So your folks in India should understand there's a big war here in the United States between the Trump movement, President Trump's presidency, and the established order. And one of the hot spots that's going to be is New York City and Manhattan. This is going to continue, I think, for a number of years.
But it must have been traumatic because you've been in prison over another conviction relating to defying a subpoena relating to an investigation to the events of January 6, 2021. Are you saying even this is something, that's been witch hunting?
I went to federal prison, not a camp. I went to a tough federal prison for 4 months for the first time in American history for a misdemeanor, because I would not bend the knee to Nancy Pelosi in the House over the January 6th committee. Now, what has happened? I came out of there more empowered than ever, more engaged in President Trump's winning campaign. My team worked the entire time. The people that sent me to prison all went to the White House and begged for blanket preemptive pardons. It's never happened in American history. So the entire committee that sent me to prison, the staffs that perjured themselves and sent me to prison, all got blanket preemptive pardons because of their actions against President Trump, Peter Navarro, and Stephen K. Bannon, and the January 6th protesters. So these scumbags, and that's where, and you have to understand, we're moving heaven and earth to make sure that we can work around those pardons, because we intend to get those people and send them to prison. And I'm talking about Liz Cheney, Benny Thompson, Shifty Schiff. Just to make sure you understand, this huge panel that was on TV all the time, I'm sure people saw it in India, at the end of the day, what they did after they lost is they got blanket preemptive pardons. A blanket preemptive pardon has never been given in the United States of America, ever. Okay, ever. The entire committee got it, and their staffs that perjured us. The people that sent all the criminal referrals on President Trump. And remember, all the Jack Smith, the 300 years in prison they were trying to get President Trump for, all came from the January 6th committee. I wear this as a badge of honor. It empowered me. I came out of prison tougher, more focused, more empowered. Nancy Pelosi's been kicked to the curb, and all the J6 people have basically been dishonored in our country. And not just that, they've been begging for pardons because they understand the crimes they committed, and their crimes were substantial. And they have to understand we're going after them in every aspect we can, including at the state level, civil suits, etc., because they put almost 1,000 people in prison in the United States. We were political prisoners, and this is the reason the MAGA movement's so powerful. This is the reason we're so strong. This is the reason we've come back, and this is the reason you see Days of Thunder every day. We are not going to stop until we destroy the administrative state and destroy the deep state. And people in India should stay tuned, because this is going to be quite a war for the direction and struggle for the United States of America, and we intend to win. We're winning it now, and we intend to be the victor at the end.
Is there going to be a hit back to those, who have now got this blanket, cover? Is there going to be some sort of retribution that they will have to pay for?
President Trump says his retribution will be peace and prosperity. You see where he's already talking about Russia, China, and the United States getting together and taking their arms, taking our defense budgets down by 50%. President Trump is maniacally focused on bringing peace to Ukraine, to the Middle East, to Gaza. He's trying to work out something on the South China Sea and Taiwan. On prosperity, this is why he met with Modi. He wants to figure out how to double or triple trade between the two partners in 5 years. That's President Trump's focus. Now, the people around President Trump, and I take pride in being one of those. I'm an attack dog. I'm a street fighter, and I'm proud of being a street fighter. We've gotten so far in this movement because we have some street fighters. I fully intend to hound those people to the ends of the earth until they're brought to justice. These people are dangerous. They're evil. They almost destroyed the United States of America, and we will hunt them to the ends of the earth to bring them to justice. So the people around President Trump, there's a number of us are not so forgiving and not so kind-hearted as President Trump is. President Trump's a very kind-hearted individual that has so many other responsibilities as a world leader, as the world's leader right now, that we don't have those requirements or those restraints, and we're going after these people quite hard. Yes, they can never be. What happened in the United States, and the stealing of the election, and what they tried to do to President Trump, just so your audience understands, he was indicted on 92 felonies. He's been found guilty on 32 felonies. Hell, I've got one. He's got 32, right? They tried to send him to prison for over 300 years. They wanted him to die in a federal prison. They wanted him to die in a prison. Understand that they were bound and determined to send Donald J. Trump, the man you see on the world stage today, leading us to peace and prosperity. They wanted him to die in a prison. We will never forget it. We will never forgive it. It can never be allowed to happen again in our country. This thing has to be dug out of here, root and branch, and we're prepared to dig it out, root and branch. And he has many people like myself that are very focused on the fact that we will never allow this to happen again. This is why we need to shatter the deep state. And if it takes shutting down USAID, we'll shut it down. We will go to the ends of the earth to destroy the deep state.
Well, you say it with so much conviction that I think audiences in India have no option but to stay tuned to watch this space as the war unfolds. But let me ask you, what do you think of Elon Musk? You've said he's truly an evil guy, but it doesn't look like President Trump thinks so. He doesn't share your opinion. So what's going on there? And what's the way forward?
I have a theory in life that's gone pretty well. I think in India and geopolitics in India, it's taken India a long way. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Elon Musk and I agree on very little, although he was there for us and supported our strategy in the 2024 campaign, supported our strategy and put $250 million in 5 months in back of it. He's also been I've been kind of the father of this deconstruction of the administrative state from like 8-9 years ago. But Doge as a weapon is very powerful. Now, President Trump needs to control that. There's some controversy, but what he's done so far, particularly in cutting costs, we have a major financial crisis in the United States. Our budget every year is over $2 trillion in excess of what we take in as far as revenue goes. This is one of the reasons we're doing the tariffs or reorganizing world trade to get more revenue into the United States for this. But somehow we have to close that gap. What he's done on Doge has been very helpful so far. What he's been done on Doge, let's take USAID. We have worked on that for 8 or 9 years and been blocked at every step by the Republican establishment who sided with the Democrats, and particularly the Republican establishment, the established order that likes the deep state. And in fact, quite frankly, they're very anti-Trump. Elon Musk has come in as a jackhammer and exposed this and helped us to try to take these things down. In that regard, he's very good. But we have the United States has created, and this is what happened with radical Democrats in our political class, created an apartheid state in Silicon Valley. These oligarchs, these tech oligarchs, which they really allowed them to get out of capitalism, become techno-feudalist. It's not about markets and profits. It's about digital platforms and rent seeking. And they're very abusive. This is one of the abuses of the H-1B visa program. They've taken folks from India and they treat them like indentured servants here in the United States. They pay them anywhere from 1/3 to 50% less than they were paying American citizens at the same skill level. And then they live in horrible conditions in Silicon Valley, essentially slave labor. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate for us to have a relationship with a country as great as India, with the history of India and the culture of India and the civilization of India, to treat Indians like these people treat them. And the reason is that they don't care about anybody. They don't care about American citizens. They don't care about Indian citizens. What they care about is that they're feudalist, okay? They're feudalists and they're rent seekers. And they really look at people as serfs. They're human serfs today, but they want them to be digital serfs in the future. So I stand adamantly opposed to these oligarchs in Silicon Valley. And yes, the oligarchs in Silicon Valley have become part of our coalition. And the reason they became part of the coalition, they all had their road to Damascus at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the 5th of November. They're all progressive Democrats. They're all radical Democrats. But as soon as we won and they saw the coalition we're building here, because we intend to govern for 50 years in this country, given the broadening coalition we have of African Americans, Hispanics, Indian Americans, Asian Americans, also what the Make America Healthy Again movement of Bobby Kennedy and Nicole Shanahan that's now merging with us. We intend to govern for 50 years. They understood that. And all there are, they just want to suck up to power. They don't care how they do it. So these people have to be watched. They have to be watched constantly, and they have to be fought. I'm prepared to do that. Now, and taking down the deep state's not easy. So like I said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but I always have to keep my eye sharply on my enemy.
Well, what you say now sounds like a truce, but clearly there's a lot happening, undercurrents that are happening below the surface. And clearly that keeps us riveted to what's happening in America. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Steve Bannon. We'll continue to be in touch because we love headlines and we love news. And what you say is a lot of crackling news coming out of America. And India loves its drama, loves its news. Thank you very much for joining me.
And we love India. So look forward to coming back and supplying more crackling headlines from the action here in the United States.
Thank you very much, Steve Bannon.